Miami, Florida, is a city full of ancient secrets. Would you believe me if I told you that amidst the skyscrapers and concrete jungle, one of the largest trees on Earth lies hidden smack dab in the center of downtown Miami? Bayfront Park is one of the most frequented destinations in all of Miami, but even the locals are largely unaware of the giant concealed within. Tucked away in a piece of the park that is not always open to the public, stands what appears to be the largest baobab tree in all of the continental United States. Widely regarded as a literal tree of life, legendary baobab trees like this one are not even native to Florida, but rather parts of Africa, Arabia, and Australia. You may recognize them from The Little Prince or movies like Madagascar and The Lion King. This begs the question, how did an exotic, gigantic, and seemingly ancient tree come to grow in downtown Miami, a city that's only been around since 1896? Being such the notable landmark that it is, I was perplexed to discover that no information is available online concerning the Bayfront baobab, so its origin truly is a mystery. In a previous video of mine, we discussed the mythological and religious symbolism of baobab trees, known as the Kalpa Vriksha, after becoming aware of 5 similarly undocumented trees in downtown Hollywood, Florida, and a couple others in Miami. But at that time we had no idea that an even larger baobab existed in Bayfront Park. In this presentation, we'll tackle the mystery as to how baobab trees came to Miami, the spiritual significance which they offer to Florida, and how to find the tree yourself if you're interested in visiting. The views expressed in this video do not necessarily reflect my own. Now enjoy.
Welcome to Florida, baby.
Allow me to tell you the amazing story of how I became aware of the baobab tree at Miami's Bayfront Park. In January of 2023, I released a video about 5 ancient baobab trees in Hollywood, Florida, just north of Miami. The video centered on the research of an Estonian-born mystic known as Haladara Karl Labi, who we met after a series of extraordinary synchronicities in the Broward County area. Haladara traced the mysterious origin of these 5 baobab trees, regarded as sacred around the world, to the naming of the city itself, Hollywood, a term meaning holy wood. It was revealed that baobab trees were introduced to India thousands of years ago, and from there they came to play a significant role in Hindu mythology, known as the Kalpa Vriksha, a divine and wish-fulfilling tree. I've always known that Florida is world famous for its citrus, banyan trees, and feral peacocks, all of which are native to India, but it just so happens that the flag of Miami is nearly identical to the flag of India. Haladara pointed out that 2 separate Hindu sects had set up shop in the neighborhood, and really made a convincing case that Florida has somehow become the spiritual nerve center of the United States, thanks to the presence of its magical baobab trees. The video was very well received, so we hosted our first monthly full moon meetup at the Hollywood Circle and had a great turnout. dozens of people also reached out to me with message of gratitude, saying that the tree had granted their wish or strengthened their connection to God in some other way. So, a couple months later, we hosted another full moon meetup, but this time at Bayfront Park in downtown Miami, completely unaware that there was also a massive baobab in the park. As we approached the predetermined meetup spot, I sighted the unmistakable trunk and canopy of a baobab, and we quickly changed locations to the foot of the tree. The size of this tree greatly exceeds those in Hollywood and elsewhere in Miami, but as with our previous investigation, no information was available online. We had a great turnout on that night, and with a group of 25, walked to the prehistoric sites located across the Miami River, known as the Miami Circle and 444 Prickle Site. Though the meetup was a great success, with all the music and Lord's holy incense getting passed around, I completely neglected to take a picture or a video of the baobab tree. It's been over a year since then, but I recently went back out to film the Bayfront baobab during an excursion to Miami, and this just might be the only footage of the tree on the internet. I certainly couldn't find any on YouTube or elsewhere. To be fair, the tree is not exactly open to the public, and is entirely inaccessible at some parts of the year. Interestingly enough, the baobab tree is often included within the perimeter of Miami's Ultra Music Festival, hosted at Bayfront Park. Both the Hollywood baobabs and the Bayfront baobab are attached to an amphitheater. Interestingly enough, parts of the baobab tree are used to fashion musical instruments across Africa. The name baobab is applied to any of the 8 species of the genus Adansonia, which are native to Madagascar, Africa, parts of the Arabian Peninsula, and Australia. The larger species of baobab can reach over 100 feet in height and over 50 feet in diameter. In terms of size, baobab trees generally reach adulthood, around 200 years, but are known to reach upwards of 2,000 years old. Despite their armor-plated appearance and rock-solid surface, baobab wood is actually one of the lightest woods in the world, with an average density of only 0.13 grams per cubic centimeter. Among the Aboriginal mythologies of its native regions, the baobab tree holds the status of a tree of life, like that in the Bible, or a world tree, similar to the Yggdrasil of Norse mythology. Thus it held similar titles and nicknames in the various local languages. Another common nickname for the baobab tree is the upside-down tree, due to its appearance. Along Africa's Zambezi River, local tribes teach that baobabs once stood too upright and proud. Thus the gods became angry and uprooted them, only to throw them back into the ground. But they happened to land upside down. According to one interpretation of that tradition, evil spirits now cause bad luck to anyone that picks up the tree's flowers. But it's worth noting that the vast majority of baobab traditions hold the tree in very high regard and very good benevolent energy. Another tradition tells that when God first planted the baobab tree, it was capable of walking and would not sit still. So it was plucked and replanted upside down to keep it from moving. Wherever the baobab tree is native, local legends somewhat mirror these general narratives, but can be attributed to various gods such as Thora and Kang. That's right, Kang. One famous African proverb tells us that, quote, wisdom is like the baobab tree. no one man can fully embrace it by himself." End quote. Despite not being native to Southeast Asia, baobab trees were introduced at some point, and thus Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism identified the baobab tree as the Kalpa Vriksha, or wish-fulfilling divine tree. Its earliest descriptions are mentioned in Sanskrit literature, with Kalpa meaning world and Vriksha meaning tree in Sanskrit. It is said that the Kalpa Vriksha originated during the primordial churning of the ocean of milk, often being associated with the Milky Way and the birthplace of the star Sirius. The king of the Hindu pantheon, Indra, is also said to have had a hand in the tree's evolution. The principal variety of Kalpavriksha is said to grow at the peak of Mount Meru, located in the middle of Indra's 5 paradise gardens, or the center of the world. Thus the tree is widely extolled in the iconography of Southeast Asia. Baobab trees are revered not only for their stature, but also the fact that the tree can supply every need which the human body may require: food, water, shelter, clothing, and medicine. In terms of food, nutritional benefits are offered by nearly every single part of the tree. The fruit and pulp can be enjoyed fresh and often goes by the name monkey bread. The seeds contained within the pod can be roasted and eaten like nuts or brewed into a beverage similar to coffee. Beer and other fermented beverages can also be made with the fruit. The leaves can be boiled and eaten as a leafy green, much like moringa or spinach. Those interested in Tartaria-related conspiracy theories will be interested to know that the baobab fruit is a major natural source for potassium hydrogen tartrate, commonly known as cream of tartar. Perhaps the most popular method of ingestion in America is when the fruit are dried into a powder, then sold as a supplement and added to water, similarly to a drink mix. Due to its high vitamin C content, it tastes very close to vitamin C powder. Just a tad bit sour, but naturally a little sweet too. Overall, there are more than 300 common uses for different parts of the tree. As for hydration, the trunks of baobab trees are capable of storing thousands of gallons of water. Many villages puncture the trunks to use as wells, which can be the only dependable source of water for months at a time, while other baobabs seemingly gush with water naturally, as if tapped into a spring. As for shelter, baobab trees often feature large cavities, and in some cases can stay alive after being hollowed out. Some baobab trees are large enough to fit 50 people inside, and thus they routinely served as homes and places of refuge. In Limpopo, South Africa, there stands a large baobab tree with a functioning pub inside of it. Baobab trees have even been used as jails in places like Australia and Botswana. As for clothing, the trunks of baobab trees can be stripped to make clothing, rope, bags, paper, grain sacks, fishing nets, and even fishing line. Mats and carpets are known to be made from baobab bark in the Masvingo area. The burned fruit shells result in pot ash, which serves as an ingredient in soap making. As for medicine, traditionally, baobab leaves, bark, and seeds have been used to treat almost any disease, including malaria, tuberculosis, fever, microbial infection, diarrhea, anemia, toothache, and dysentery. The leaves and fruit pulp have been used for as long as mankind can remember to reduce sickness and stimulate the immune system. Baobab fruit is very rich in vitamin C, potassium, magnesium, iron, calcium, and fiber, all of which are crucial to a healthy diet. Baobab pulp also has antioxidant properties. Adding baobab to your diet has been shown to aid in weight loss, help balance blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and optimize digestive health. One popular wives' tale tells that living near a baobab tree will increase a woman's fertility. All metaphysical properties aside, studies have shown this to be plausible, so long as the women are ingesting the tree's vitamin-rich leaves and fruits, thus ensuring a nutrient-rich diet. Baobab trees surprisingly play a significant role in one of the most popular works of fiction ever. The Little Prince is a French children's book authored by Antoine de Saint-Blablabla, which sold an estimated 140 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling in history. The book has been translated into over 505 different languages and dialects worldwide, being the second most translated work ever published, trailing only the Bible. The Little Prince has also been adapted to radio plays, live stage, film, television, ballet, and opera. In the story, the titular character, known as the Prince, used to live on a very small asteroid known as B612. On the surface of this asteroid grew the baobab tree. It was necessary for the prince to prevent or restrict the growth of baobab trees, since they posed a threat of taking up too much space on his tiny homeland. Within the Little Prince, baobab trees can be interpreted to symbolize the dangers of neglect and procrastination. But in regards to the geopolitical atmosphere in which the book was written and released, the threat of growing baobabs is widely believed to represent the spread of Nazism. It occurred to me that the French World War II era airplane, which crashed into the great baobab tree in the Madagascar series, is a veiled reference to both the plot of The Little Prince and the disappearance of its author, Antoine de Saint-Blablabla, who vanished while serving in the French Air Force during World War II. The Lion King also prominently features baobab trees. As mentioned earlier, little to no information is available about the Bayfront baobab tree online, not even the date which it was planted or transplanted. Here are a couple nearby specimens which may offer us a hint. Famed American botanist and cultivator Dr. David Fairchild is generally credited with planting the first baobab tree in Florida around 1928. Fairchild collected seeds in Tanzania and planted at least one at the Chapman Field in Miami. However, the tree was later destroyed by Hurricane Cleo in 1968. The fallen tree was amazingly rescued and transplanted to the Kampong Botanical Garden, likely the first time a mature baobab tree of this size had ever been transplanted. One decently sized baobab tree that stands at the intersection of US 1 and Griffin Road in Dania Beach, Florida, is said to have been planted by Commodore Evelyn Harcourt Brooke, an Englishman who founded the Fort Lauderdale Yacht Club and who, it is said, was capable of painting two separate paintings simultaneously, one with his right hand and one with his left. A handful of baobab trees can be found in the Redlands Fruit and Spice Park, which were probably planted not long after its opening in 1945. At least one baobab tree stands in Collins Park. As for the 5 baobab trees at the Hollywood Circle, feel free to check out my Kalperviksha video for the details. But you ought to know that the mayor of Hollywood herself, Mara Giulianti, once admitted on camera that one of those baobab trees was, indeed, ancient, and they have no official documented origin either.
The connection with our ancient baobab tree.
And
The obvious issue with undocumented baobab trees in Florida is the fact that some of them are simply too large to be less than 100 years old. Similarly sized trees in India and Africa have been dated anywhere from 500 years to 3,000 years old, so we ought to keep a very open mind. If Florida's baobab trees are truly all under 100 years in age, then their size would have to be the result of hypergrowth, meaning South Florida is some type of magical Garden of Eden. The other possibility is that this baobab tree found its way to Miami as a seed or transplant prior to the 1920s. The most logical explanation as to why a tree from Africa popped up in America with no documentation would have to be the slave trade. But there could always be more to the story than that. The rabbit hole regarding who traveled to the Americas before Columbus is simply too large to tackle in this video, but it suffices to say that Africans have been coming to America long before the slave trade. Let us take, for example, the baobab trees on the Caribbean island of St. Croix, which are recognized as being brought from Africa by slaves or otherwise, no less than 250 years ago. Considering that some of the baobab trees in Florida are larger than those in St. Croix, it just might help us draw some conclusions as to their origin. Here's how you can find the baobab tree for yourself. Bayfront Park is located at 301 Biscayne Boulevard. Contained within Bayfront Park is an outdoor music venue known as the FPL Solar Amphitheater. The baobab tree is located directly behind the amphitheater, just to the south. Approaching the amphitheater from the southeast, along the water, is your best bet to get in, because the other entrance is usually locked. You'll know you're on the right path when you see a large kapok tree by the canals. Follow the driveway past a parking lot to the loading bay for the amphitheater, and then you can't miss the tree. But I'll give you fair warning that both paths to the tree can be closed to the public at any time, so plan accordingly. You'll also be able to see a smaller baobab growing in the shadow of the larger tree, which could reveal something about its age. Feel free to make a wish at the tree, take some time to meditate, or see if it can strengthen your connection to Mother Nature and the one good God in heaven some other way. But at the very least, I hope it helps you better appreciate the wonderful state of Florida.
Here are a couple of ways you can support the channel.
Make sure to check out Florida's #1 metaphysical book and crystal store, The Dancing Elephant in Palm Beach County. You just might find me there at work. If you're not in the area, go use the code OWF at dancingelephant.shop for 10% off.
Monad is a compendium of philosophical writings by three major Neoplatonist philosophers, Plotinus, Porphyry, and Proclus. The most accurate and potent translations of the Neoplatonists were done by Thomas Taylor in the early 1800s, and we have made those translations available in a new hardcover edition, limited to 2,000 copies. This book is an 800-page hardcover behemoth featuring an introduction by the one and only Ken Wheeler, with cover art by Benjamin A. Vierling, and a frontispiece by Kuba Sokolsky. Copies can be purchased for a discounted price of $50 during our pre-sale, to be found at galloglassbooks.shop. Unleash your crown chakra with our 100% cotton Make Atlantis Great Again visors, Available at oldworldflorida.myshopify.com. Shop Butterfly Pea Flower Tea and Shilajit with code OWF for 10% off at sipblue.com. Shop Organic Moringa with code OldWorldFlorida for 10% off at themoringaman.com. Join our Patreon for uncensored, ad-free content, patreon.com/oldworldflorida.
You see that raccoon? That's good eating right there.
Barbecue.